Hello, this is Elvi from Comic Book Bin, filling you in since 2002. We're reviewing KA-ZAR today. KA-ZAR is a classic Marvel character. He's one of the jungle type of character, a bit like Tarzan, the original jungle hero. Now, there has been several starts, several series to KA-ZAR, but the current KA-ZAR is the one that we've seen in the X-Men, the one that lives in the Savage Land. He's accompanied with Zabu. Here's Zabu. Zabu is a saber-tooth that raised KA-ZAR as a kid. So KA-ZAR's parents and himself crash land in the Savage Land, and so Zabu decided to raise KA-ZAR even though he's an animal. This is not the first KA-ZAR action figure from Hasbro. There was another one a few years back, but this one is probably the better of the two. I don't have the other one to say for sure, but from the pictures I've seen, this one is much better, and so is Zabu. Marvel Legends and Hasbro have come a long way, it seems. Now, classically, KA-ZAR is blonde with longish hair, and this is what we have here. This is why he kind of looks like He-Man, even though he predates that character by decades. The sculpt uses the Vulcan sculpt, but the main problem with the sculpt is not the face, not the hand, but the actual wrist. There's a cut in the forearms of the figure, which were not covered by any kind of prop, any kind of gauntlet, which means that we always see this cut. It does not look good and it feels a bit cheap for Hasbro, as you can't even twist the forearm there. It's just a cut. I would have preferred for them to give us coverings for that. That's not what they did. I tried to find my own. As you can see, I was not very successful as they don't really fit with KA-ZAR. They're made for much bigger action figures and KA-ZAR is a bit too skinny for that, unfortunately. But I'll keep on digging until I find something that can cover these cuts. They're not exactly nice to look at, especially given that the entire figure is pinless. Now, why produce a pinless figure if you're going to have those cuts at the forearms? It's not the best paint ever. In terms of paint, well, KA-ZAR's plastic is made of the skin tone, so there's not much paint covering. Hasbro does not tend to make figures in plastics and then paint them over anymore, except for garnishes and small parts and so on. But usually what they do is they'll take the base plastic color and paint that and produce the action figure with that color instead. That's Hasbro. I think it's a much better way, but it also allows for the figure to be shaded. Now, Hasbro does not shade its action figures very much. The only part that's really shaded extensively here would be the hair. The fur on the loincloth and the boots are not shaded all that much. Only the hair has highlights and so on. It's too bad. In terms of scale, being the Vulcan body, it means that this figure will fit with most other Marvel Legends action figures, but it won't fit with larger lines such as Mythic Legion combatants, where you could see a jungle character fitting with them, but it will fit with G.I. Joe Classified, Marvel Legends, of course, Valorverse, and other bigger 112 action figures. Smaller 112 action figures such as Star Wars will not fit very much, but you could argue that KA-ZAR is a bit bigger, being a jungle warrior. KA-ZAR is very stable on his feet. He doesn't seem like he's gonna fall over, topple over. The feet are quite flat, and that's good. There's good balance, and he doesn't have a backpack or anything special. And when you put the spear in his hand, it can help balance him out a bit. Because you can easily move his ankle articulation, you can gain the right grip that you need to get him to stand properly. In terms of articulations, KA-ZAR has several of them. He has butterfly joints. They're very good, but they don't go very far back. So it's almost useless to have butterfly for this character if he doesn't move all that much. And when you try to move them, it springs back to its original shape. So it's not very useful or intuitive in that sense. You can twist his biceps. He does have double articulation at the elbows. It's very good. Like I mentioned, there's nothing in the forearm, even though there's a cut there by the sculpt. Now, both wrists have the up and down articulation, which is very good for handling a spear or a dagger like KA-ZAR's. So that's a very good thing, a very good choice that was made by Hasbro to improve the range of motion. Instead of having one inside out, it's the up and down. So that's much better. The head moves, but the hair does get in the way. It doesn't do that much good. It can look down pretty well, cannot look up so much, but it's much better than Icarus, who can really not do this. Because of the hair, which are very long, you can't put his head up too much. It's on a separate ball in the neck. So two parts. It's the neck articulation and a peg that pegs inside the head. So it doesn't have the full motion that it could have. So it has less articulation range than your typical G.I. Joe classified. Now, the ab crunch is classic ab crunch. It doesn't look good neither in the front or the back, but the figure can arch a lot. He can only twist side to side. There's no ball joint in the waist, giving him more flexibility, and that's kind of a bummer. Again, G.I. Joe classified action figures have way more range than that, and ball joints in their stomach, making them much more posable. You can raise the legs pretty much, but again, unlike a G.I. Joe classified, he has more realistic range, so he can't do the full split. You can twist the thighs 360, but because of the musculature, it doesn't really look very good when it's twisted. He's got double knee articulations, but they can be very tight, so I suggest putting them in hot water first. He can kick his own buttock with his heel, almost at least, so that's a good thing. But again, you should probably put your figure in plastic before you try that. The boot gives them an opportunity to give us a boot cut, and that's a good thing. It's going to help with stability with the figure. The ankles are good enough. I'd be a bit careful with the figure not to break those ankles. Again, they seem to need to be in water, but they can twist side to side also. I will say that the articulations are good. It's kind of easy to pause him in a way that he can hold his spear. Now, he's made of PVC plastic. His hair are a bit more rubbery. You could see it's the same plastic all over. Slightly polished, slightly matte. It's good enough for the figure. The props we get with these figures are several hands. So there's 3 pairs of hands. So grappling, grasping, and fist. You can exchange them as you wish. But I find that it's better, more useful to hold the spear with 2 hands, which thus limits which hand we can use with the character. Those hands can be used with other Marvel Legends action figures. It's the same standard for all of them. The spear is nicely done. I'm not sure if it was used with the Wakanda figures before, but it looks very good. I'm not sure about the dagger either, but it fits neatly in the back and the buttock of the figure. Now, the last prop was a piece of Zabu. He comes with the right front leg or paw of Zabu. Now, I like this figure. I can see this figure being used for several custom action figures in the future. A lot of people have already customized him as a He-Man stand-in. He's kind of a Tarzan for me, although KA-ZAR is his own character. I wish more unique characters like that were made by Marvel Legends, and obviously, as I mentioned, it's easy to customize KA-ZAR into any other character. His build is so classic. He's almost naked, so he can become almost anyone. The head can be exchanged, but they may not fit. It may not fit. Not every head will fit right on the character. Remember, the skin tone does change. This release, the Zabu series of Marvel Legends, seems to have been more limited than other Marvel Legends series or waves. So there's not as many of them around as usual. So you may have to check for that and be wary of that. So don't wait too long if you want this figure. In my case, I bought KA-ZAR from a retailer, an action figure retailer here in Canada, that offered KA-ZAR without the Zabu parts. And I bought Zabu from another retailer, online retailer of course, who sold Zabu on his own. So I didn't want all the parts, I didn't want the entire set of figures, I just wanted KA-ZAR and Icarus, and of course Zabu. I didn't want the other figures. It's the standard Marvel Legend price in Canada or the US, so you may get more luck depending on which store you buy it from. You may get a better discount. But like I mentioned, this figure will be highly popular for customizers, so you may not want to sit on it too long before you get it. It was released about a month ago. It's a great figure. Go for it. Like and subscribe. This is Hervé from Comic Book Bin, filling you in since 2002.